Hello YouTube, and here's a YouTube exclusive here. One of our subscribers was posting about it in our Discord, and we thought we'd go ahead and give it a shot here. Playing red-green Ponza in Modern. It's good to be back in Modern just very briefly, and I hope you guys enjoy that. As always, hit the subscribe button or the like button, and get this video up there on the rankings. We hope you enjoy it. One thing to note, we actually played the game in complete silence. We actually post-recorded all of the dialogue. So we've actually watched this through twice, and I hope you guys at least spend some time watching it once through. If you think we've misplayed or thought of any other cards to add, definitely let us know. With that though, let's just go straight into the matches. There's a little bit of a deck discussion at the end. Timestamps are down in the description below for you guys to hop around. Enjoy. Red-green Ponza in Modern. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we get here. We're going to be playing our Modern League. Setting ourselves up. Going to go ahead and find our opponent as well. And as mentioned, this is actually recorded after the fact, so we're actually kind of observing our own list being played here. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what we pick up on the second look through. So we found our first opponent here. We're going to get things rolling here. And the hand looks pretty decent. There's 21 lands in the deck, and so we're looking at a Stomping Ground into, say, an Arbor Elf or a Utopia Sprawl. And then we have our components of Pillage and Rabblemaster. If this was a fetch land, the Renin 6 kind of plan would also be an excellent thing to do here. I have a feeling that we keep this hand. It's a bit greedy, but I like the greed of it, and we're getting used to the deck here. We'll probably be leading with either Utopia Sprawl or Arbor Elf based on whatever we're seeing from our opponent. If we think they're going to maybe remove our Arbor Elf, we can lead with Utopia Sprawl and vice versa. We see a bauble, actually a pair of baubles here from our opponent. At this point, I believe I am facing down something with Urza in it, maybe Oko in it, a couple things like that. Happen to top deck at Once Upon a Time here, which is excellent because it actually allows us to search a little bit deeper for our land card. The card's very strong, searches 5 deep. We do find that fetch land, we pick it up, and this will set up our Renin 6 very nicely. I don't believe there's going to be a threat over there, so I want to say that I lead with an Arbor Elf. And we're not too concerned about our life total for the most part. So there we go, Arbor Elf, led, and let's see what our opponent does here. Can't imagine there was too much here, maybe popping the bauble. And they do. So they pop a Mishra's Bauble here in response to the end step. Getting to draw a card here. Extra snow-covered island from our opponent. Astrolabe, so now they're able to fix the mana. We do have a couple either Blood Moon Magus effects. I believe they're Magus of the Moons in the deck. And so that's not a very good thing here. However, our Pillage is exceptionally good here. Our Pillage gets to hit pretty much anything we want at this point. We also have a Gilded Goose, and so my opponent's ramping. We have a Utopia Sprawl for us. We're probably not going to be playing a Magus because of the lands. I'm thinking probably kill Gilded Goose and Pillage, or maybe Gilded Goose and get onto the board here with a Rabblemaster. Go ahead and fetch our basic here, just in case we do find that Magus and want to play it. I have a feeling we're going to be doing Utopia Sprawl here on red. And so by doing it on red here and using the red mana, we only have 2 red mana to us, so we're probably going to bolt and Rabblemaster here. Start putting the pressure on our opponent and get rid of that Gilded Goose so they don't get that 3rd mana naturally. They could obviously have just a land drop. This does put pressure on them though, so if they get Oko, for example, they're going to want to probably remove the Rabblemaster, I would think. Or they might also block with the food token. See what else our opponent's got for us here. I think we're in a good spot here. The Renin 6 doesn't do a whole lot other than just continues to ramp us up. Could be used for a ping here and there as well. Gilded Goose, though, being an 0-2 makes that difficult. Engineered on 1. This actually impacts a few things we've got going on. Our Utopia Sprawl and our Arbor Elf, but doesn't really impact anything else here. I have a feeling the play is going to be something very simple as a Renin 6 plus a Pillage here. And I don't recall if I played the Pillage on the Engineered Explosives or on the land. Part of me just thinks it's going to go on the land. They need the land drop plus just you remove it, and they're not getting rid of our Rabble Masters. So Pillage a land here. Sets them back. We don't have a Gilded Goose. I believe they didn't have a land drop there, and we take this one pretty quickly. So sideboard, I think the sideboard's pretty simple here. Probably bringing in Trinisphere and Cinder Vines. Here I am looking at Cinder Vines, and that to me makes the most sense. If we want Trinisphere to be played, we want it to be played earlier than, say, Karn. I'm taking a look at this Shifting Ceratops because I'm not actually very familiar with this card, but it can't be countered. It's a solid body, it's a 5/4 body, and it has some hexproof type of things towards blue. So our opponent is a Gilded Goose, Astrolabe based deck, so we want to be taking probably the Magus of the Moons out. I'm trying to figure out what else I want to be taking out here to get this Trinisphere in, just as a potential one of if we were to hit it. I'm hesitating on the Lightning Bolt. I go ahead and take the Karn. The Karn's probably an incorrect take here. I'm taking a look at Cinder Vines and trying to decide, was this the right idea? Remove their artifacts and we'll just go from there. Maybe top deck a Karn at some point, but I'm looking at pressure. You could probably leave the Karn in and pull that Lightning Bolt out. Maybe even just a Renin 6 out. So this initial hand, it looks alright. I could see myself keeping it because I have the Renin 6 and I'm probably going to hit a fetch land with the Once Upon a Time. Plus the double Pillage. A singleton Pillage worked really nice last time. This one seems to do fine here with a couple Pillages and probably this Once Upon a Time. I'm thinking I'm going to hit that land drop and hopefully hit it on a fetch land. I do stop on my opponent's upkeep on the off chance that they have something like a Spell Pierce. I don't want that to just catch this Once Upon a Time. We got a little lucky, went ahead and did hit one thing. That's all we asked for. Had to look 5 deep and we have a decent amount of fetch lands. So now we have the Renin 6 plan with the Horizon Canopy, probably just a stomping ground here with our Windswept Heath. This will get us enough lands. The question will be, from there, will the Pillages and the Bloodbraid Elves be enough to put enough pressure on our opponent? Opponent did appear to mulligan down at least one. Gilded Goose here, getting their food token. Bauble. Our opponent's down to 2 cards here, and they've used one Bauble, and they're going to use another Bauble, so they're drawing 2 unknown cards. Compared to our Once Upon a Time here. Our Once Upon a Time was pretty nice. We were able to just pick things up. We happen to top deck another land here as well, which is nifty. Windswept Heath, fetching Stomping Ground, probably doing this for some F6 value just to get through the turn. Not too interested. So while our opponent takes their turn and while we get back to our turn here, what I'm seeing and what I recall from this match is I'm just going to use Renin 6, keep fetching with this Windswept Heath that I've stuck into the graveyard, and just eventually pillage them out and Bloodbraid Elf them out. Happen to be flooding out just a touch here, but that's okay. And our opponent's not putting any pressure on. We didn't see a turn 3 Oko here, which is great for us, or turn 2 in fact. Yeah, things are going well. Mox Opal's not technically online here. Probably going to see Gilded Goose activate so that Mox Opal's online, which is completely fine here. Might as well activate Gilded Goose and get some value out of it while it's sitting on the board versus just letting it go to waste here. So good lines, good mechanics from our opponent. So my opponent hasn't done anything here. Quite literally just a Gilded Goose. Maybe they're flooding out here, maybe they're not. I'm taking a look at the Cinder Vines. The Cinder Vines is kind of interesting. I could pick off the Mox Opal. If I pick up the Mox Opal, it's 1 less mana. What I'm thinking, though, is they haven't played anything, so they're probably sitting on perhaps more lands or even just more legendary artifacts. For example, Mox Opal. I have to fetch double red here because the plan is probably to play Pillage over the killing the Mox Opal, with the fear that it doesn't really matter me taking out an artifact. They probably have that extra Mox Opal. I size up the 2 lands. Doesn't really matter what I take. Black was kind of an interesting piece of mana here, but it really doesn't matter with this Mox Opal in play. But we're gonna go ahead and keep them off of these lands, and that's gonna be the game plan until I can get enough of an advantage here to push through damage and clear this game out. Land drop, tapped, no actions from our opponent. I'm starting to kind of wonder what it is they might even have here. Bolt's nice. I have a feeling I just Bolt Goose and play another Pillage effect. Noting that we're actually getting Renin 6 further and further up here. Could potentially use Renin 6's emblem ability. So we're at turn 4. Opponent's sitting at 2 lands. Got that Mox Opal, so they have that 3rd land. But we're keeping it off of 4, 5, or 6. I don't feel like they should need that much, so we're probably getting a touch lucky here with what they're drawing. Mystic Sanctuary comes into play tapped. Opponent's not really interested in taking damage. We ourselves are kind of flooding out, but I have these Bloodbraid Elves, so probably... It could be time to go ahead and use a Bloodbraid Elf here. I have a feeling I could just be using Cindervines as well and popping off the Mox Opal. Probably just want to get to the board, and that's what I've chosen to do here. Getting an Arbor Elf off of our Cascade, that's fine. Nothing too crazy here. I'm going to go ahead and punch in for damage. Swing in combat. At this point, I could be using the Horizon Canopy. There's a part of me that wouldn't mind. Just keep generating advantage here. Opponent finally shows one of the things they've got, a Fatal Push. So my opponent's probably sitting on removal at this point. Removal or maybe another Mox Opal. Again, our opponent's not doing anything too crazy. I'm taking a look at Renin 6 just to see what is the down loyalty amount. It is 7. So I'm probably at this point debating, do I just go up or do I just go down here if they don't interact with Renin 6 and start using my graveyard. Opponent's Bobble, and at this point they've drawn 3 of their Bobbles. I haven't quite figured out what this deck is doing, only assuming that it's an Oko based deck or an Urza based deck at this point because we haven't seen too much of it. It does splash black at this point for the Fatal Push. Plays a Mystic Sanctuary, gets their Fatal Push back. So we know they're actually drawing a Fatal Push here. This kind of shifts our interest here. So they've drawn this Fatal Push. There's no real reason to commit, say, a Bloodbraid Elf here. They pump fake here on the Arbor Elf. We know it's unknown card plus this Fatal Push. At this point, I'm not thinking I should commit Bloodbraid Elf. We'll see what I end up actually deciding, but I would make an argument here that I probably should just Pillage twice, really strip them of things, get the Renin 6 active at this point. We should have done that maybe in response or before the fetch, just in case our opponent did have something. But we get this off. We're going to go ahead and go to town on our opponent's lands here. And at the point of this game, we've drawn a lot with Renin 6. In that we have lands, so those are the drawn cards. So we have those available to us, and we're just going to cash these in for value at this point. So I do a little thought process here, thinking, hey, why don't we just go ahead and fire off the Cindervines instead? I don't have to get rid of my lands, and I can wait on my lands for maybe something else more utility. Could use the Once Upon a Time in the graveyard. Could do a variety of things here. Again, we haven't committed the Bloodbraid Elf mainly because of the Fatal Push. And we are pretty much guaranteed to be removing something just about every other turn here. an Emery. Alright, so we figured out, hey, there's another part to this deck. Luckily for us, we have a Bolt in the graveyard, and I get to pitch and just kill Emery here. So it's Fatal Push, an unknown card. Looking really good here. Get to see a few more things. Alright, so an excellent draw here. We're counting up how much mana we have and what we have to go get. We can shut off the Mox Opal, which is really nice. We can go ahead and pillage at this point. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Arbor Elf, 8 with the Horizon Canopy. So we have the ability to do Karn, downtick, go get something and play it. We could also cash in Cindervines. We can do some things with Pillage. So here we're so far ahead, we go ahead and just take the line that we're going to go ahead and pillage here. We can pillage again, noting that these cards just don't disappear. And by doing this, we're just stripping every single land we possibly can here from our opponent. I believe I go ahead and just take out the Mox Opal at this point. If they have one extra Mox Opal, fine, but if they don't, they're down to a singleton land here on turn 7 going into turn 8. Fatal Push, and now we have an unknown card. Not a whole lot my opponent can do at this point. I think we've got this one locked up. So as this game finishes, we kind of can make a few observations. Pillage, the interaction of Renin 6 obviously is just kind of bonkers, doing some crazy things there. We have a great top end here with Karn. Easy way to just suddenly lock the game out. No real worries here. The package seems to be a nice little balance of control and aggro. We'll play our Karn, go get something like a Liquid Metal Coating, shut off their only land in their upkeep step, and then our opponent doesn't have anything to do. So our game goes really well here, showing we're going to go grab Liquid Metal Coating there, shut off the land, and we've got it completely locked out at that point. I am fully aware that I am not recording this live. I'm recording this after the fact, so I was showing a couple pieces there. Deck seems very sweet, very solid, nothing too worried about with the mana base, how it acted in the game 1, match 1 there. So let's find a next opponent and see how it goes. If I recall, this league actually isn't too long. That's not too long. It's got some stuff going on for it, but it wasn't too long of league. We're watching the video as we go here. Alright. Second opponent has been found. We'll be getting into match 2 just shortly. Sideboard from last game. Alright. Got a starter hand here. It looks pretty good. A little bit of ramp into 2 great finishers. No removal. No removal, no pillages, no maguses. But on the whole, I've got to keep a hand somewhat like this. Can't skip hands like this. It feels too good. And even if they remove, say, an Arbor Elf here, we have 3 of our 4 necessary lands. Alright, so fetch and shock and a Thoughtseize. Our opponent did mulligan, it looks like. Now this Thoughtseize actually can tell us a little bit more about what our opponent's doing. They get rid of our Karn, and that one's kind of interesting. Clues us in that they're perhaps an artifact deck, and Oriantor can take care of the Bloodbraid Elves and the Arbor Elves. So we lead Windswept Heath, fetch, basic land. The other thing I'm thinking is it could be Grixis Death Shadow, so if I top deck my Magus of the Moon, I want to be slamming that immediately. Obviously, that's not necessarily the case here. Snow-covered island, Astrolabe, so our Magus of the Moon's not the best top deck if we were to find it. Would rather not at this point. It doesn't really matter. Bobble, and now our opponent's beginning to look like our previous opponent. So, what worked well for our previous opponent? Well, Pillage worked well, so it's a good main board card. go ahead and go get that Stomping Ground. We have the option to go ahead and do the Pillage if we'd like, due to Arbor Elf getting to untap this double red here with Stomping Ground. Based on those actions, we'll go ahead and do the Pillage. We can go ahead and go after the dual land here, although maybe going after the snow-covered land is kind of nice if they have another Astrolabe that they would like to fire off. But keeping them a little bit restricted on their mana colors is good. Say they have a third color, for example, green. Then we can keep them a bit pinched if they needed the black, green for anything. Alright, we pick up a Chandra here. We don't really have any other actions to do here. We played our land for the turn, so there's no need to get Renin 6 in here. Get to play Bloodbraid Elf, cascading into a Bolt, which is just fine. It just hits them for 3. We attack them for 3, and our opponent's already at 9 life here on turn 3. They helped us, obviously, with some fetching and shocking. So interesting enough, I'm kind of going, wow, what's going on here? I see red mana, Scalding Tarns. We've seen a Misty and a Polluted Delta. At this point, I'm like, are we looking at 5-color Niv? What could our opponent be up to? So here we get to run pretty much the rest of the hand out here. Running 6, not a problem here. Uptick, grab our land, play Arbor Elf, looking pretty good. If they somehow board wipe there, we're up to 5 lands, and then 6 pretty soon after. Okay, so we think very similar deck, same game plan, Cindervines, Trinisphere. This time I'm looking at the Chandra and the Magus here to pull out. I believe I pulled a Karn out last time and left Chandra in. Some of the reasoning was maybe Chandra could kill an Oko, but it doesn't kill it too quickly. So, hand looks good. We believe they're that Oko Urza thing. They have the Astrolabe, so it's not bad to have the Karn. And having 2 Karns here is kind of nice. Our opponent did take a Karn, even though we had things like Bloodbraid Elf. I believe that was this game. Here we go again, and this looks like, yep, pretty much the same deck in match number 1 to here. Luckily, we have a fetch land for Renin 6 if we'd like to get that going. The top deck of the Snow-Covered Forest was okay. Gets us at least to 4 if we want to use Renin 6 for something else, like a ping or something. Alright, so our opponent's got Oko here. They're out of cards just about. They're at 2. Rabble Master's an interesting one here. So instead of having Renin 6 just take 3 from the food token when Oko turns it into an elk, we just go ahead and stick down a Cindervines. This is alright. Taking a look at options that we have in the sideboard, wondering if we have anything for Oko here. The answer is no. We have the ability to liquid metal coating it, but that's about it. Food token here, we're at 16. We're looking at our sideboard. We have a Pillage, and Pillage we actually can't cast. We can play Rabble Master at most here, and then Rabble Master just turns into an Elkin, or they swap it with us. We're counting up artifacts. Yes, things will shrink if they do some swapping or whatever. We're considering a concede here, and we go ahead and do that. Urza's active. We're at 3. Next draw was just a Cindervine, so nothing too crazy there. Keeping in mind that the Elks are actually not artifacts. So at this point, because I saw an actual Urza and we're into game 3, I am looking at this Ceratops. I'm thinking this is probably the key card for this matchup. So I definitely want to give one a shot here. I don't recall if I make too many plays into this Ceratops. So I do draw 2 Lightning Bolts. Probably the idea here is that unless I have Renin 6 plus the Lightning Bolt, we're not getting rid of Urza, and Oko is just really difficult to bolt, so why not bring something in that's kind of interesting. Terrible first hand there. The second one here is actually not too bad. Turn 2 Rabble Master, turn 3 Rabble Master, and some backup with a Lightning Bolt. We do have a Cindervines. That being said, the Cindervines doesn't necessarily mean we're going to just kill something here. So it's probably the card to pitch. I like Arbor Elf, and I like just ramping in with the Bolt. Very aggressive. We only have the 2 bolts in the deck. It just happens to line up that we have one in hand, so why not? We're on the play. Let's be really hyper aggressive here. Make our opponent answer these. Mox Opal and a couple baubles. Seeing this opening, we're almost wishing we had the Cindervines at this point. Just pick off the Mox Opal. And take out our Arbor Elf here. Well, it was a risk, but we were willing to take it. End up drawing a Once Upon a Time. This can almost guarantee that we're going to find our 3rd land, which is excellent for us. Opponents at 3 lands, or 2 in the Mox Opal. They haven't cashed in any of these baubles. If they cash one in, that means they don't have a 3-drop. They would have tapped before. This Once Upon a Time risks a few things here by playing it at the time we did versus the previous turn. So maybe a little bit of a tighter play would be to play when they were tapped out. Especially since the main thing we were looking for is just a land. Wooded Foothills is what we find. We bin a few other things. They go to the bottom. But our game plan is sound. We're going here. No Oko. So not too worried about that. And actually our opponent cracking their other bauble makes me feel really good. Although, yes, they are drawing cards. Their Mox Opal's not online, and it's very unlikely that the Mox Opal's going to be online. So we're not looking at probably Urza here, but we are looking at maybe Oko, or maybe looking at a removal spell. They could have fetched. Yeah, we do find Oko, though. So instead of turning our Rabble Master into an Elk, our opponent decides it's just a good idea to block with Mox Opal. It's not doing much else. It's probably a sound play, but I do top deck a land. We get to bolt this, play an extra Rabble Master, and actually one of the few times I get to take out an Oko through combat the turn after it was played. So short of a board wipe in the colors of blue and green, this game's feeling pretty wrapped up here. We're just adding up a few things to be sure that Oko is taken care of here. And it is, through the 5/2 Rabble Master. We also have a Blood Braid Elf off the or not off the top, but here in the hand. We can cascade into something, which is pretty nifty. Opponent does find an Emery and a Gilded Goose, so this will buy them some time here. And we're seeing a experimental frenzy here from our opponent. We're really pretty confused at this point. So here I should be playing the Blood Braid Elf. I play the Ceratops by accident. The other thing, though, is that maybe the Ceratops is alright to play here. Our opponent's more than likely chump blocking, and they're probably chump blocking with Gilded Goose, not the Emery. And then the Ceratops would get through if they chump block just one thing here. They can basically chump and then take all the tokens and keep Emery alive. So this gives my opponent a draw to find something. What? I'm not entirely sure what they could find here. There wasn't too many things in the graveyard that scared me. Baubles aren't very interesting. The Astrolabe is also not very interesting. So whether it should have been Blood Braid Elf or Ceratops, we don't know. I go ahead and go a few deep here with Blood Braid Elf just to see what we would have hit. And we would have hit a Pillage, which was kind of nice. Wouldn't have been a bad thing to cast there and take them off of the land. It seemed to work match 1. Worked out in match 2. All in all, this deck seems to be doing well against Urzas and Okos. Obviously, it's just 2 matches in, but we'll go ahead and find our next opponent here in match 3 and see if the streak continues here. It's very interesting to review our matches, and I played pretty quickly, so we're trying to keep up with commentary. But on the whole, it's been very interesting just to rewatch and maybe see 1 or 2 lines. Alright, so we have an opponent here. We have a couple Blood Braid Elves and a Wrenn and 6. No real ramp here. I am starting to wonder if I should be looking for ramp a little bit more frequently than I am currently. That being said, it's all right. I think this hand's got a lot going for it for the mid game. So the hand's maybe a mediocre one at best. I'm waiting for our opponent here. I'm going to go ahead and get our Wooded Foothills. We're not going to give any information to our opponent. Brand new opponent, brand new game. Forest is cool to see. Got a little excited thinking my Renin 6 might pick off, say, an Arbor Elf. Seeing just a basic forest, not a snow cupboard. We do pretty immediately understand what's going on here. Now, going to 18 is a bit of a risk here with some sort of Valakut, but a lot of the Valakut decks are not just playing Scapeshift anymore. They're playing Field of the Dead, they're playing Primeval Titan, and really it doesn't matter if you go to 18 or not. 18 was a magical number when Rug Scapeshift was a deal here, and this just isn't the case. We do know that we have a Blood Moon that we could potentially top into. It's our Magus. Opponent's ramping pretty hard with their Explore plus their extra land here. So we end up getting a Bloodbraid Elf. At this point, I'm not too thrilled about having all these Bloodbraid Elves, but we do know that after this turn, we're going to get going here pretty quickly. Field of the Dead and an Arbor. Arboreal. Grazer. No land. And we actually end up getting our fourth and final Bloodbraid Elf in the deck. So the game plan's pretty simple. Play something, slam Bloodbraid. Play land, slam Bloodbraid. Utopia Sprawl. Not exactly what we want. Can really pick any color at this point. Realistically, I was looking for my Magus. I was looking for just a Pillage. Looking for something that takes down some sort of land here. Our opponent's got 5 lands here. Didn't have a land in hand, so that was kind of nice. They end up finding their land and shocking it in here. This is not good. Primeval Titan. Alright. Well, Primeval Titan here. Not good. They can definitely get some stuff here. Field of the Deads. Plenty of creatures to block now. We need something like Karn and then a bridge, realistically, to maybe thwart off what's going on from our opponent. Maybe I shouldn't have been picking up some Renin 6 lands, although we're almost up to 7. There's an argument to say keep picking them up. Maybe if I get a Ponza type effect, sorry, not a Ponza, a Stone Rain type effect, we could replay it a couple times. Bloodbraid into a Once Upon a Time. I had the option of a Rabble Master. I opt to take the Hex Drinker, and at this point I've realized my bridge is probably my only out. Play Hex Drinker here and pass turn. Alright, opponent has a Sakura Tribe Elder. This game feels like it's kind of gotten away from us. Primeval Titan here goes and gets some Valakut triggers. Remove stuff. Could get more Field of the Dead triggers as well. Opponent's going to go super wide and and a lot of damage here. So this one's pretty wrapped up. They go and fire 6 to us. Trying to calculate a way to maybe not die. We forget that they have this Sakura Tribe Elder. I don't believe there was really much of an out anyway. Alright, so what do we need here? We definitely need our Pillage effects. Definitely drawing a few lands here. There was a couple Pillage effects coming with the Bloodbraid Elves. Alright, looking at what I have here, I don't really have too much. Maybe the Weather of the Storm because it gains me life. Besides that, there's not much. So we're going to go ahead and bring that in. Maybe my opponent plays like 2 or 3 spells by chance. I'm checking Veil of Summer, double checking that it was just blue and black, nothing else. It is a cantrip after all. On the whole, though, there's not a whole lot for our opponent. They really shouldn't be a lot for our opponent. Our opponent is Titan. Scapeshift Titan. Amulet, or not Amulet, green-red sort of Titan shift Field of the Dead. Should be pretty good. Pillages, Magus's main board, and an aggro package. So, this hand looks good. We have the Magus, we do need the extra land. We have the Wrenn and 6, which guarantees the land, and we have a fast clock behind this. The most fearful thing here is my opponent did see a bunch of Bloodbraid Elves, because that's all I was playing. And so, a Bolt would obviously take care of the Magus pretty easily. So this is probably our biggest concern, but hey, it's what we got to go with. We're leading with Windswept Heath because this can naturally go get just a basic forest. Can also get a Stomping Ground, and then our next land can get both a basic forest and a basic mountain. Wrenn and 6, grab the land. This will ensure that we can do our Magus things here. Secure a Tribal there and pass the turn. So this can go get their basic forest. I'm pretty much known for trying to pick the Secure Tribal Elder off and trying to get them to go get a non-basic so they get, or the mountains so that they get more mountains towards Valakut. Our opponent, I don't know if they just F6'd or whatever, but basically Secure a Tribe Elder dies here to our Wrenn and 6, which puts us very, very far ahead. We go ahead and slam the Magus of the Moon, or shutting our opponent off of green, hoping that their strategy is predominantly ramp and they don't have a bolt. This happens to work out for us, which probably is just being very lucky here. So we're going into game 3. It's pretty in our favor, I think. I mean, we're a land destruction deck. Our opponent's attempting to ramp, and their win condition's not, say, a big payoff necessarily, but it's a usually entering the battlefield creature triggers for creatures for Field of the Dead or Valakut triggers. All right, so we keep one. This one's a little bit more of one of those for science, I like to call from time to time. The science of this is I've got 2 Utopias, 2 Arbor Elves, and I have plenty of lands here. And generally speaking, I have 4 mana on turn 2, and I have a whole ton on turn 3. So if I draw any of my payoff cards, I'm in great shape. Excellent one there. We do happen to draw one of our payoff cards. So we lead with Arbor Elf to give us the maximum potential here with being able to put Utopia Sprawl on a land, putting the Magus into play, putting either another Utopia Sprawl or an Arbor Elf. Field of the Dead and the Mountain, all of these are non-basics. So I pause here, draw a Karn. That's pretty nice too. So our potential payoff here of getting to do 4 mana is interesting with our Karn. We could definitely, most certainly, just jam a Karn and probably just lattice them. We go ahead and get an extra basic here of the forest variety. Set everything up. And so we do end up slamming down an Arbor Elf, which means I'm going to be playing Magus. If my opponent has Bolt, it's got to go to the Magus of the Moon. It can't really go to these Arbor Elves. Opponent's lacking green mana again. Picking up a Weather the Storm. At this point, I believe I have enough mana to just completely blow out my opponent. So this is turn 3. We'll go ahead and slam a Karn here. And if you're doing the math correctly, guys, you'll notice that I have enough for a very potent combo here with Lattice. This is actually turn 3 because of our ramp, and that is game. Turn 3, Karn Lattice. That means we generated 10 mana. We did have a little bit of the nuts here with the Utopia Sprawls and the Arbor Elves, along with a Magus here to prevent green mana and removing, say, our artifacts. Obviously, our opponent's not playing any of those force cards for removing artifacts, which is maybe a little bit surprising, but they're also not interested in continuing to play because we're going to bash down with that Lattice. So, high ceiling, high reward there, a little bit of a risk. Anger the Gods would have been a real rough one there. But overall, it worked out, and we locked them down pretty quickly. I guess you typically don't see that on turn 3. All right. find our fourth opponent here. Overall, the deck's doing well. I like it. It's flowing nicely. It feels very powerful. It feels like the right balance of cards as well. I guess I haven't really noticed, but there is a Ghost Quarter. I think I got that in one of the games, but I'm not really paying attention to that Ghost Quarter too much. It's kind of an interesting card. Alright, we found our next opponent here. Fourth match, we're 3-0 currently, which is pretty nice. Hand looks fantastic here. We have a Once Upon a Time to Find Something. We have a Rabble Master, and a Pillage. I really can't see pitching this one back. This one's a good keep. Find out what our opponent's up to. Leads with an Urza's Mine, so I'm feeling really good here. I have the Pillage. Usually our opponents on Tron are looking for extra lands. Happen to do Once Upon a Time straight into a Magus of the Moon, so this is starting to look really good. Lead with just an Arbor Elf. Again, a little bit of that extra value here with the Utopia Sprawls. Tower into Mindstone. So at this point, we're pretty confident we know what our opponent's doing. They are playing probably Eldrazi Tron now, so the Mindstone's a bit of an annoyance. We get our Utopia Sprawl down, we get our Magus going as well. Don't want something crazy to happen next turn. That would be rude. We don't want Tron mana and just something horrendous. Blast Zone for our opponent. Mindstone, there's the Thought-Knot Seer, so we're against Eldrazi Tron. I can see them taking the Pillage so that we don't nix their Mindstone here. I could see them taking Rabble Masters because those would take over the game. The Magus of the Moon's probably the least of their worries. Opponent takes the Pillage. So this looks good. This is 6 mana here. We'll just go ahead and float it all out and play 2 Rabble Masters here. And start taking the damage to our opponent. Scariest thing for our opponent to play is maybe a Reality Smasher, but at the same time, with so many goblins attacking next turn, we're going to be able to trade with both of those. They do have the mana, so that is the biggest threat they could do. I guess they could play another Thought-Knot Seer, although that's not the best for them because, well, an extra Thought-Knot would mean that when we attack, we get to draw extra cards here. Matter Reshaper is excellent to see here. Chalice on 1 does hurt us a bit, but the board state we have is excellent. And I forgot about this Chandra, but that's a good one. We happen to have exactly 6 mana. I'm sure my opponent's not thrilled seeing 6 mana tapped here, knowing one of the cards was Magus. Chandra here, we can go ahead and down tick. We can kill Thought-Knot here and draw a card. We can get rid of the Matter Reshaper as well. I think Thought-Knot's just the easiest one to do here. Easily 4. We're double checking that it's more of a leave battlefield versus a dying type of thing. Game 1's looking really good here. I'm bashing in for what really looks like lethal, and it is, so my opponent has to chump block. They chump block a Rabble Master, taking 10, getting an Eldrazi Temple. What do they have? 2, 4, 6 mana. So they don't have a 7th mana. They're not going to... At most they could play Karn. That doesn't really do much. They could play an Ugin if they had 2 mana here. Sometimes Eldrazi Tron has played Simian Spirit Guide, which would be pretty awful here. I would not like to see that. Waiting for our opponent. think they're trying to calculate something out here, seeing if they have a potential win, or rather a potential way to get out of this. They would need a Wrath effect. Karn's not going to do it. We don't really care about Karn. We're afraid of maybe a bridge here, but even a bridge here, it allows all my tokens to get in, and a Chandra would be working here. My opponent gets a Wormcoil Engine and dismembers our Rabble Master and then is dead on board. So that worked out nicely for us. Going to sideboard here, I have a feeling we keep things relatively the same. We could bring in some Cinder Vines at most for something like Mindstone, still Expedition maps played, 4 Chalice. We also have the Pillages for that. We're thinking about pulling the Lightning Bolts. The reason for that is that Lightning Bolts really don't kill Thought-Knot. They don't kill Reality Smasher either. We're looking at both Hex Drinker and Lightning Bolt. For me, I think it could be Lightning Bolt. We do think about the Wrenn and 6 and go, hey, maybe we can grab one of these out. Wrenn and 6 doesn't ping off anything, although it could be a poor decision. Wrenn and 6, it would be nice to pull that card into play, be able to get it up to the Pillage stuff that we did earlier in the league. It would be also nice just for our land drops. So here we keep a hand. It doesn't really have a lot going on for it. Maybe it's a dangerous hand to keep at this point. We should probably be looking for... We have 4 Pillages. We have 2 Magus of the Moons. We probably should be looking for one of those. This initial keep here is probably a mistake. So our opponent has easily Tron mana here. We have a Rabble Master. It's probably our best play here to get as much on the board as possible. Our opponent just having Tron mana here, though, just very immediately is not a good sign for us. Could easily be just jamming a Wormcoil Engine or something crazy. We're not totally out of it, though. We could top deck a Magus. We could top deck a Pillage. Oh. Opponent decides to Spatial Contortion, removing Rabble Master. So I guess they don't have any action here with Tron mana. Seems a little bit odd, especially after they missed when the trigger happened. Alright, so opponent's got a Power Plant. We top deck a Pillage. To avoid Tron mana here, and because they searched for the Power Plant, I can see just picking off this Power Plant here and playing a Hex Drinker. So we find our card that we need for the matchup. We needed the Magus or the Pillage. Warping Whale. So that counters a sorcery spell, which is not a good feeling for us. Now we haven't gotten them off of Tron. This could go bad pretty quickly here. Opponent's got an Eldrazi Temple. And plays an Endbringer here. Endbringer for 6 mana. So this isn't a good sign for us. They can prevent us from attacking. They can also prevent or keep paying us for damage here. At this point, we're trying to add up and see, okay, so Karn needs to come down and somehow we need to get a bridge. That's our out. Hex Drinker's removed by a Dismember, so we don't have too much that blocks here. Right here, I should probably be playing Karn. I don't remember if I do or not. If I play Karn here, then I have a blocker. Maybe we're scared of like a Reality Smasher. So maybe that's why I've done the Hex Drinker here. But if I play Karn and my opponent's last card is not exactly a hasty smasher, then I could easily just get the Karn, go get the bridge, and we'd be in pretty good shape. So maybe the last turn should have been that. Maybe even just uptick with Karn. Endbringer pings it twice. Would have gone to 4, down tick. We'd have to somehow prevent Endbringer from ticking and killing Karn over the course of the game. But it would give us plenty of time here with a bridge in play. Five mana, Reality Smasher. So we're lucky that we didn't play, I guess, Karn. But we could have down ticked and then gotten a bridge still. That being said, we'd be chump blocking here, just like we're doing. So Karn's probably the better play of the last turn. That's probably the big misplay here. I could see that costing us this game. Because now we're looking at 4 mana, but we don't have enough for the extra down tick ability here. And we're sitting here with a Hex Drinker that's blocking, but it's not blocking well enough if I don't pump it up far enough. So we're really far behind here. The Karn was the better play, and just throw the Karn away to go get the bridge. If my opponent has a Thought-Knot Seer, I guess that's another reason not to have played it, but I think our only out looks like it's going to be the Karn and the Ensnaring Bridge. So we decide because of this, we're going to go ahead and pump up here. This way I could at least block Reality Smasher, Endbringer. And by having the protection from everything, the Endbringer cannot actually stop us from blocking. So I'm guaranteed to block one of these, which is looking nice. Expedition Map. Expedition Map's not a good sign. My opponent can get more Tron. They can get something like a Sanctum. In this case, they just get a Blast Zone. Blast Zone sets us back mana-wise from our Utopia Sprawl. They can take us for 10. They get to ping me for 1 as well with the Endbringer on the next turn. And I just have a Karn. We're losing in 2 turns unless I can remove the Endbringer. So a few turns back, I think if I would have just played the Karn, down-ticked, kind of sacrificed it to an Ensnaring Bridge, we'd be in a better spot there. I just need the Ensnaring Bridge to block. I obviously have an issue with their Endbringer for a while, but I could I'm not saying I could remove it, but it would definitely have given me more time in that game. Alright. Here, this hand looks a bit weak. Even though the Once Upon a Time's there. I should probably be mulliganing this again, looking for Pillage and our Blood Moon effect. But I get kind of baited here with the Once Upon a Time, it seems. I don't hit a Magus here off the top. I don't hit any lands either. This isn't looking too good for us. Stomping Ground, Hex Drinker. Let's go ahead and beat down, I suppose. Looks like the game plan here. Expedition Map. No Tron land. That's good for us to see. We don't have a way to kill the Expedition Map, unfortunately, immediately. That would make the Cindervines so much better. We go ahead and play it with the intention that that'll be what we kill next turn. Maybe my opponent has an Eldrazi Temple, and we can just snag this off. Urza's Mine, so they don't have Eldrazi Temples here. Spatial Contortion to remove our Hex Drinker. I'm worried about that. At least I can get rid of this Expedition Map. We fail at finding our land, and we don't have a fetch land, so Ren and 6 isn't really a play. We'll go ahead and take them off their Expedition Map. Another land. Opponent's got 4 mana. Thought-Knot Seer. Gets to take whatever they want here. I could see them taking Ren and 6, so if I get a fetch lands, I don't get any more. I could see them taking maybe a Rabble Master so they don't have to deal with 2 of those in the future. What are they going to take here? good long think about this one. A good long think. Ends up taking Karn. Kind of interesting because it's a 4-drop. Let me draw another Karn. I hesitate on the concede. I'm not looking too good here. Even if I draw a land here, I can Rabble Master and block. It's not looking too good, though. Taking 4 this turn. Going to 12. We're on a 3-turn clock here. Really needing a land. Matter Reshaper is not a good one to see either. We miss our land drop again here. We can play Wrenn and 6 at this point. We should have probably played it the previous turn. Nothing's happening here, though. We've kept a 2-lander. We had no ramp. We should have been looking for pillages. Should have been looking for ramp. This was probably the poorest game we played of the league here. Getting hit for 7. Opponent's going for Wrenn and 6 here, just to keep it off in case I do get that fetch land. Go to 9. I do top deck a land, so we have something going on for us. Gotta play a creature. We took 1 to put it into play, so we gotta put the Rabble Master into play. Goblin goes in, unfortunately. We don't get a second blocker here. So we're gonna have to chump block Thought-Knots here. Could even kill the Matter Reshaper. Extra Matter Reshaper here. Not looking too hot. Got a block. Can't really go to 1. Lets my Goblin be a blocker next turn. I get a Blasting Zone. And a Scavenger Grounds. Cinder Vines is not what we needed. We almost needed another land here for Bloodbraid Elf. Go ahead and play the Rabble Master, but at this point they can just Blast Zone, remove it, and pretty much kill me. I'll go to 1. I can chump block a Thought-Knots here, I suppose. Blowing up Blast Zone kills their Matter Reshaper as well. I go ahead and do this. Matter Reshaper. Eats the bus. Eats the dust. Endbringer for our opponent pretty much spells disaster, and a Warping Whale finishes us off. Alright, so Eldrazi Tron takes us down here. We definitely could have played that better, looking for pillages and ramp spells. Probably our poorest game of the league. Poorest game, and we still took one game out of that match off of our opponent. Turn the fan on real quick as our opponent. Get our last opponent there. We do find our opponent here. Alright, final match. No lands, but a lot of Once Upon a Times. This is kind of tempting. And we get suckered in. We're going to keep a no-lander here. I'm not sure this is the wisest thing, but we're going to go for it. And we do hit our land, although we only hit 2 lands. Got a little lucky there. Alright, we take the Snow Covered. Maybe it's better to take the fetch in the off chance that we need to just play Wrenn and 6 and get another activation for our land drop. Alright, so it looks like we're against Burn here. We top deck a Utopia Sprawl, so it's sort of like a land drop. Get the land, we Lightning Bolt this out of the way so that we are not taking too much damage here. Not looking too bad. Opponent Lava Spikes us. And light up the stage. Alright, so we've got kind of like probably a prowessy frenzy list here. Top deck Rabble Master. Seems good. We'll just go ahead and get in some damage here while we have these Once Upon a Times later. If I find a land here, the Bloodbraid Elf's kind of nice. If we don't find a land, we can work with Once Upon a Time. We can get maybe 2 Once Upon a Times if I find another land. Would have to not be a mountain. Opponent bolts Rabble Master here. Lava spikes me from their light up the stage. And does a crash through. Just a cycle. Just a cycle. We top deck another Rabble Master here. We'll just put the pressure on. Trying to keep up. Our life total is at 13. Usually this opponent would have creatures, so maybe our Rabble Masters will be able to block. Steamkin. Steamkin and a Swift Spear from our opponent. Followed by a Lava Dart. So they're going to get rid of Rabble Master. Grow Steamkin here. Pretty good, pretty good. Gets in for 3, it looks like, and will take us to 10. So what's nice here is our Rabble Master doesn't send our tokens in, so we got a couple chump blockers, so we might have a few turns here. Top deck a land, that's good for us. Probably spin the wheel with Bloodbraid Elf, gets an extra blocker. Find a Pillage, we'll go ahead and take out their cycling land. No attacks. We just need to stay alive. Opponent's got a top deck. We're top decking. Opponent top decks a land. Probably no attacks here. I would just kill the Swift Spear. Find a land here. I think this is a great opportunity to just get Karn down. If we get Karn down, we're pretty close to just winning if I top deck a land. I guess I decided to do Once Upon a Time. I hit a Magus. It's kind of interesting. I decided to play this. This is an interesting line from us. I like playing Karn maybe and looking for that top deck land. That would have been tasty. Opponent top decks another land here. Not very good for them. So there's that top deck land. It's in the form of a creature here. We get to Arbor Elf and then play our Karn here. We'll go up in case they have like a bolt type effect. We're worried about, say, an Experimental Frenzy here, but otherwise next turn we lock them out of the game, which is good for us. Which is good for us. Opponent floods out here with a few lands. So we can just down tick Karn. I'm a little surprised they didn't maybe hold the land, but maybe the idea here is that they have the Frenzy and they want as many lands in play as possible. We go get Lattice though, and we can just naturally play this. At this point we've won the game. We just got to get around a 4-4 and a 1-2. Shouldn't be too much of a problem here with the Lattice upticking with Karn. At this point, my opponents decided not to concede, which is fine. We'll go get another threat here. Get a Walking Ballista. We can make Walking Ballista relatively large here. We can wait on Walking Ballista as well, or we can just kill off Steamkin and start attacking. Maybe a little bit safer to leave green open for our Arbor Elf there when we're tapping. So this one's pretty easy. My opponent's going to obviously combo out. They're going to have a lot of cards, so we're going to look to do Weather the Storm, Cinder Vines, and Trinisphere. We're going to just cut a little bit of the top end, the Maguses, because they're a red deck. Don't need so many Pillages because their spells are all 1 and 2, and they have the Steamkin. And so we're looking for one last card here. Renin 6 is an okay card. I could see cutting maybe one Karn as well. But Karn was nice to us last game, so we'll give Karn the benefit of the doubt here in this game as well. This hand has nothing castable, so that's not keepable. And we flip into an excellent hand here. This is an easy put Weather the Storm back, because you're going to Trinisphere and then Pillage them pretty easily. So the first two threats, and if they're not creatures, it's just going to feel pretty good. So it happens to be a creature, so they're going to be able to hit me a few times. So we top into our other Weather the Storm. Happen to draw the exact one other. Pretty good for us. Utopia Sprawl. Set ourselves up for this Pillage and Trinisphere. We'll definitely be leading with the Trinisphere, because that'll force my opponent to have 3 mana. Swift Spear. Oh yeah. And missing a land drop? Oh, yeah. Alright, so this is a pretty easy Trinisphere. My opponent doesn't get to play anything next turn. The following turn, we can pillage them. Looks good. So we're going to probably just shock in and play Pillage here. Strip a land, pass the turn. Force them to find another land here. I try to play Utopia Sprawl. It's not allowed. Trinisphere is a thing. We're only taking 2 a turn. I realized Trinisphere is in play. Opponent finds another land, so those are the top cards from the last few turns here. Alright. So we have a Karn that we've top decked. Not the greatest. Taking a look at options from the sideboard. Can go get a Karn here. Just go grab something. Seems fine. Grab a Walking Ballista. This way we can remove the threats that are in front of us. We're hoping that our opponent's just not going to top deck any more lands, and they won't be able to play Magic here. Tax Karn. So my opponent's trying to do everything they can here. Lightning Bolt's an excellent one here. We're not going to activate our Trinisphere on the off chance that they have, say, a Bolt in a land. That wouldn't be ideal. Here, we're going to just go ahead and play a Walking Ballista. This is pretty nice because they can block, and then if my opponent pumps, we can then kill the other creature in response. They only get one thing here. And that'll do it. There you go. 4-1 here with the deck. And we'll post-record a little deck here on Red-Green Ponza. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Red-Green Ponza here. It's doing an excellent job. I'm pretty thrilled with what it was able to put together here. Lightning Bolts, Arbor Elves, Once Upon a Times, everything seemed to come together very nicely. Ramped up really cool. And then the Pillage actually is probably one of the better Ponza, the Stone Rain side of it, effects, only simply because it actually destroys artifacts and lands, which is really key right now in the meta. It's a great targeted spell. I'm also a sucker for the Karn Lattice lock. I think the Karn having a way to finish the game really quickly is a really good thing. And so that's an excellent card here, and I'm definitely happy to be playing that. The top deck Chandra is a bit of an interesting one. She's come into play once or twice. I guess it's better than maybe the 4th Renin 6 here. So happy with that. Renin 6 in the Horizon canopies didn't really come into effect here, but I can see where those are. Sideboard, the Shifting Ceratops is kind of an interesting card, being that it's pro-blue here. We can take a look briefly. It's pro-blue and can't be countered. It's an interesting card. Not going to remove it. I think it's absolutely fine here. Seem to be doing well. We easily punted away the Eldrazi matchup that should have been looking for Pillages and Magus of the Moons. I'm not sure why I didn't do that. Maybe just not quite paying attention to what I should be really focused on. So excluding that matchup, I think the other 4 went really well. Pretty happy. Red-Green, Ponza. Yeah, looks good. If you like the deck, go look at it. Deck list will be down below in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this YouTube exclusive here on the channel, and we will see you next time. Take care, guys, and have a good one.